So why do so many people reject Calvinism? Because it requires us to realize that we have no involvement in the cause of our salvation. It's the biblical truth that we don't choose Christ, but Christ chooses us. Calvinism proves that salvation is not about persuasion. You can't convince people to come to Christ. No, the Savior does all the saving. That all people are born enslaved to sin, hating God. They teach the biblical truth that all people deserve hell and nobody wants to be saved. They teach that God is not obligated to save any of us, but they also teach that God, in His mercy, before the foundation of the world, elected to save some. Namely, that God will save His people and will leave the rest to justice. But there is no injustice here, just justice and mercy. In the same way that God elected the Israelites and not the Philistines, He elects the people of His church and leaves the rest to His wrath. There is no wrong here.
So did Jesus die only for the elect? John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him should not perish but have everlasting life." That seems pretty self-evident that Jesus is dying for the world. But somebody who believes this teaches that the world there is not talking about the actual world, it's talking about the world of the elect. The problem with that is you go on in the next verse and it says, "For God did not send His Son into the world," that can't be the elect, "to condemn the world," therefore that can't be the elect because the elect aren't condemned, "but that the world through Him might be saved," and that's a tautology. That would be self-evident in the passage. There's a passage in Romans chapter 5 in verse 8 where it says, "God demonstrates His own love toward us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." And then it goes on in verse 12 and says, "Therefore, just as through one man's sin entered the world, and death through sin, and thus death spread to all men because all sin." That one man would be Adam. Later on in verse 17 it says, "For if by the one man's offense death reigned through the one, much more those who receive the abundance of grace and of the gift of righteousness will reign in life through the one Jesus Christ. Therefore, as through one man's offense judgment came to all men," and that's everybody, "resulting in condemnation, even so through one man's righteous act the free gift came to all men, resulting in justification of life." One man's disobedience, many were made sinners. Also by one man's obedience, many will be made righteous. In fact, the Bible teaches that even false prophets were bought by Christ. In 2 Peter chapter 2 and verse 1, it talks about false prophets, and it says that they deny the Lord who bought them. This is Paul's conclusion. "For the love of Christ compels us, because we judge thus, that if one died for all, then all died, and He died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for Him who died for them and rose again." How about we do that?